Since any criticism of Islam inevitably is met with comparisons to historical Christianity, I believe the technical term for this is argumentum ad crusades. I find it valuable to preface the subject with two questions. 1. Which modern majority Christian countries are theocracies? And 2. In which modern majority Christian countries are being gay or burning the holy book crimes punishable by death? Now we can talk about Islam, at least for a short while longer here in Canada. Our left-pole elvish government is working on legislation akin to blasphemy laws, but with specific protections regarding Islam. There are already general hate speech laws, and I'm not sure if I'm going to cross that line here, but any discussion and/or criticism of Islam in Canada seems dangerous. I actually don't mean to criticize Islam directly, just the motion M103 in Canada, which will likely end up yet another limitation on our freedom of speech. You want clear, concise, and reasoned criticism of Islam? I recommend Ayaan Hirsi Ali, Sam Harris, or Gad Saad. I mean to address the motion. Part A asks the government to recognize the need to quell the increasing public climate of hate and fear. Anthony Furey, in an article for the Toronto Sun, says about this, "What a vague and unsubstantiated sentence." And I tend to agree. It seems to be conflating an increasing public climate of questions and criticism of Islam and a climate of hate and fear. And if my assessment is accurate, the motion is then demanding recognition of a need to quell an increasing public climate of questions and criticism, which is obviously retarded. Questions and criticism are the tools we use to hone a general concept to a fine point, and hindrance of these tools can only accomplish a prevention of the most complete analysis of a given concept. Part B suggests we condemn Islamophobia and all forms of systemic racism and religious discrimination. The group most targeted for religious discrimination is Jews, yet anti-Semitism isn't mentioned by name, which at the least seems suspect to me. It suggests that the motion is less about religious discrimination in general and more about Islamophobia specifically. Part B also mentions petition E411, and we're going to circle back to that. In Canada, a motion is usually the equivalent of a parliamentary virtue signal, a banner waved in declaration of for-ness or againstness of an issue. However, Part C of the motion calls for a study to show how the government can reduce or eliminate systemic racism, religious discrimination including Islamophobia, and make recommendations that the government may use to better reflect the enshrined rights and freedoms in the Constitution Acts, including the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now, what that last bit means is build a basis for writing legislation that will amend the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. M103 is calling for more limits on freedom of speech. Now, E411, the petition, states, Islam is a religion of over 1.5 billion people worldwide. Since its founding more than 1,400 years ago, Muslims have contributed and continue to contribute to the positive development of human civilization. This encompasses all areas of human endeavors, including the arts, culture, science, medicine, literature, and much more. That's not quite right, is it? The Arab world was the global leader in STEM fields until about the late 11th or early 12th century, when an imam by the name of Hamid al-Ghazali reinterpreted the Quran and came to the conclusion numbers are basically the devil. Scientific innovation and advancement ground to a near halt after that. Islam had nothing to do with scientific achievement. It actually severely hamstringed it. The petition goes on to say that an infinitesimally small number of extremists have committed terrorist activities while claiming to speak for the religion of Islam. Their actions have been used as a pretext for a notable rise of anti-Muslim sentiments in Canada. Well, that's not quite right, is it? A very small number of extremists have committed terrorist attacks, but it's not those incidents that have been used as a pretext for a notable rise in questioning and criticizing Islam in Canada. It's the fact that in less than 3 decades, Sweden has gone from a country with almost zero crime to the rape capital of Europe. It's the fact that during New Year's Eve celebrations at the end of 2015, as many as 1,200 women were sexually assaulted by migrants in Cologne, Germany. It's the fact that several Islamic nations practice female genital mutilation and marry 12-year-old girls to adult men. It's the fact that the first time I heard of an honor killing in Canada, I was still in high school, which could have been 20 years ago. It continues. These violent individuals do not reflect in any way the values or the teachings of the religion of Islam. In fact, they misrepresent the religion. We categorically reject all their activities. They in no way represent the religion, the beliefs, and the desire of Muslims to coexist in peace with all peoples of the world. That's not quite right, is it? In the most literal and fundamentalist interpretations, these violent individuals are in fact representing the values and teachings of the religion of Islam. That's how they justify their actions. Pardon me. Good on you, categorically rejecting all their activities. I hope that includes child brides, female genital mutilation, honor killing, death penalty for apostasy, etc. The desire of Muslims to coexist in peace with all peoples of the world? Hold on. Hashtag not all Muslims. Don't be naive. There's good and bad people in any given demographic. There's going to be Muslims who don't want to coexist peacefully, who don't want that so badly, they'll kill and die to not have it. It concludes, join us in recognizing that extremist individuals do not represent the religion of Islam, and in condemning all forms of Islamophobia. I was under the impression that those were the same thing. I'd like to think that believing all Muslims will suicide bomb me is Islamophobia, but questioning child brides and honor killings is not. But I have a feeling this motion won't leave the necessary leeway for this kind of discussion. There was an attack on a mosque in Quebec recently. A terrible tragedy, clearly, but in terms of this motion, it couldn't have come at a better time. We would be hard-pressed to find someone in the House of Commons who votes against this motion after this attack, which actually came on the heels, in Canadian terms, of an Islamic double honor killing in Ottawa. Considering none of Canada's national news agencies have reported on it, I doubt the more recent sexual assault at the West Edmonton Mall pool will be enough to sway decisions. We've already put limits on our free speech, and it has to not just stop but reverse course. We need a government that has the guts to undo the restrictions placed on our intellectual discourse and allow the free flow of ideas, whether or not those ideas can be construed as mean or even hateful. There are simple rebuttals to bad ideas. So regardless of how long an idea persists, the majority of reasonable people will always be aware that it's a bad idea, and bad ideas will always lose the debate. but only if we're free to discuss them openly. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's free country. At least it used to be.